Hey everybody, this is Brian Yellow. On episode number 49 of Origin Stories on Creativity, I had Richard Keller. He's a Northern Coloradoan, if that's pronounced correctly. He interviewed me on his show, the Wooden Pants Network. I really enjoyed it. It was a 30-minute interview. He is an effortless interviewer. It made me really feel comfortable. Get an opportunity, head over to his Wooden Pants Publishing website. He is always looking for guests, so it makes it really easy to throw an application up there and have a conversation with him. He's also the author of a few books, Paradise Not Quite Lost, Dining with Zombies, which sounds quite interesting. He's the founder and owner of Wooden Pants Publishing. He's also the associate director of Northern Colorado Writers. He's written over 2,000 articles over the last 3 decades for various media outlets, including USA Today, Fort Collins Magazine, the AOL TV. He was a good conversation. I really enjoyed talking with him. He's out there trying to do something that a lot of people are trying to do, foster creativity. And I think he's doing a good job. With no further ado, here's Richard Keller.
Almost at 300 podcasts I've doing all total. I've been doing it for about a year. This grouping I've been doing for about a year.
But you've been writing your entire life, though.
I've been writing since I have been in 3rd grade.
3rd grade. Fiction or just always the essays type writing?
Fiction, nonfiction, humorous, essays. I say I have probably written millions of words across newspapers, television, radio, blogs, my own books, and various magazines.
So you were that type of guy that was on the high school newspaper?
I was on the high school newspaper. I was on the college newspaper for a bit, but I got tired of doing court reporting, and I wanted to do radio. I've been on numerous radio stations. I've done work behind and in front of the camera on television. I've written my own books, so there's a lot going on.
I would have loved to have been on the high school newspaper. My high school sweetheart's sister was on the high school newspaper, and man, unfortunately, I had a little crush on her. She interviewed me once for the newspaper, and I just used every single gigantic word I could think of to try to impress her. That she didn't even use my interview. That's how ridiculous I sounded. What did you do the court beat for the high school newspaper as well, or how do you?
I'll be honest. I did a court beat before the college. For the high school newspaper, no, it was just stuff. It was.
Well,
just
how do you
regular.
end up doing like a court beat for college? Does that does your college have a court?
No. Yes, it does. But where we were was at Rutgers University, and that my campus was in downtown New Brunswick, which is the county seat. So you would go to the courthouse or the Board of Ed. Prior to that, actually, I started my official writing publishing career when I was 16 years old. I worked as a stringer for our twice-a-week newspaper, and I would go out and do some profiles, but I'd also mostly do Board of Ed and court and town council and court meetings.
It's devastating now what's happening to news media.
It is.
Yeah, it's changing, and I wanted to let's talk about that. What do you think it's changing into? Everybody's desperate for those advertising dollars. Everybody's desperate for those subscriptions. Nobody's paying it. What's happening? What do you think the next leg of this journey is for news media?
It is. I'm not really sure.
Right, because nobody can trust them. We have Fox News funneling money to local journalists, and people going, "Oh, I can't trust this crap anymore." The pundits are being paid off by this politician or that politician or this lobbyist or whatever have you.
Well, you're looking at a shift. And I'm not going to get into politics too much.
No, don't get into politics. But just in terms of being a neutral journalist, I mean, what way are we going to be looking at this field, this profession going forward?
Well, if you look at history, newspapers have never been neutral in many cases.
No, that's true. Absolutely.
You've had those that have been conservative. You've had those that have been on the left a little. You're probably going to start seeing more, and even in websites now, you're not seeing the neutrality. I think it's coming out harsher than it has in the past. What is the future of it? I don't know. On the education side, we're learning a heck of a lot when it comes to politics these days, whether we want to or not.
What do you mean? What do you mean in terms of education wise? Like in terms of lobbying and
right, we're learning so much about the breakdown. So I mean things like the ethics committee and the grand juries and collusion.
We know when somebody goes into office, they're not millionaires, and when they come out, they are. We know this now. We didn't know that before.
Right. We know.
Imagine they were rich fat cats, and now we like, hold on a second. How'd you get $1 million? Where'd that money come from?
We're learning a lot more, and I think that is going to change how we look at our journalism. We're going to probably more of us are going to probably go beyond the Washington Post, the Chicago Tribune, and New York Times, and look for places like BuzzFeed or Vibe. What is it? Is it Vibe?
I don't know Vibe, but I know BuzzFeed, 10 ways that your politicians are wearing the right suits.
Right, but they also go ahead and there are places that are doing more in-depth studies of it all. I don't look at the CNN website or their app because it's just too sensational.
Yeah, that was the exact word I was going to look for. I see their headline. I'm like, oh, that looks like an interesting story, but it is about the violence, isn't it? It's about, it's really skewed one way or the other. Horrible politician did this, horrible story that way or the other. It's not really about anything that's going to help me or hurt me.
No, I'd rather go to an NPR or even a BBC to get the information I need, because they're going to provide a straighter conversation or a straighter information than I would where you have a whole bunch of talking heads. I'm getting a little tired of talking heads.
Oh, absolutely. Are you a cord cutter by chance? Have you done away with the cable?
Oh yeah, I did away with the cable a long time ago, and I don't watch the news. Even though I was a journalism major, I don't watch the news because
fascinating.
Even before that time, I was starting to get tired of the way the news was running.
2001, I could sit there, I could write in the morning, drink my cup of coffee, I'd punch out a story, and I would just, have the news playing in the background. Headline news, recycle every 30 minutes. If the story would catch, you find details here and there.
Right.
It wasn't interesting. I mean, you'd find a car chase that would captivate the news's attention for the morning or something along those lines. How do you feel about Twitter or Reddit or even Facebook or something along those lines, following the news for the day in that regard? You follow a story will pop, and then you'll read the article, and then you'll go to the comment section, and the comment section will fill you in on the details.
I do not go to the comment sections because
do you play around with Reddit at all or Twitter?
I don't play around with Reddit. I do look at Twitter because that's how I market. I market on Facebook and Twitter. But when there's a news story, I do not do the comments. There are too many people who are not being open-minded these days.
Yeah, you can find that. And the nasty people are out there, right? And they pop to the surface. Like who? They just bob there, and it's really hard to find clarity through that.
And that's their job, whether it be through somebody, the place that's sending the news, or they just feel that is their responsibility. But we can't be in the end, we can't be a progressive society, regardless of how we go, conservative, to the left, whatever. We can't be a progressive society if every time something comes on, there's so much hate. If we pull away, if we stop the hate, I mean, really the hard hate, not just simmering anger, but really hard hate of stuff, then we're never going to move ahead. We're just going to stay where we are. We need to have, I mean, I'm going to say this word that everybody says, we need to have constructive conversations on this. And I can relate this to writing. You're in a critique group and you will get good comments about your story. They will find something good to talk about it. But then there's that constructive criticism side. If you are going to be a writer, you have to suck it up and say, you know what? That's probably right. I do have to look at that and fix it. But if you're not going to be a real writer, then you're going to be the one that says, F you, I'm stepping out, I'm walking away, and I'm not, I'm not going to listen to you.
You're going to cry about the negative stuff instead of looking at it a little bit more constructively, going, I could be better.
Right. And that's what we're doing now. We're crying about it. And in the end, this is all a cycle. It's all cyclical. These things come and go, and we do what we can to, we try to learn, but in many ways we don't.
You know what pops into my mind? It's been popping into my mind a lot lately is 1984. It's keeping the news it's kind of taking the people out of the news. No longer are, how do I phrase this? When I'm thinking about it, the news is going, well, there's no point in us reporting the news because nobody's buying the news, so we're not going to even write about the news anymore. So now the news journalists, the news media is no longer reporting on anything of value because nobody's paying them to do it. Nobody's reading the news anymore, so people are getting dumber and dumber and dumber reading about the Kardashians or whatever, because that's the stuff that actually makes money. And then all of a sudden, we're in a fascist society or whatever, what definition you want to put on it, going into the future. That's kind of scary in a way. Mass-produced poo, to reuse this word. 1984 hooey.
It's not any different than 1984 is not any different than the muckrakers of the early 20th century with the William Randolph Hearst and many of those other peoples who would just put stories in the newspaper as sensational. It's just we're seeing it now in more depth, in more it's more saturation because of social media. We constantly get updates on Facebook of everything and of all these things about what the Kardashians do and Rihanna and Kesha and all of those, and turn it off. I have to turn those things off, and because if I didn't, I would be angry and I would be stupid. I had to stop in order to focus on my life and what I was doing. I had to stop looking at my main Facebook feed. And I have done that since the late December, early January. I really don't look at the people doing at the people on there anymore because there's just so much fluster and anger, and I'm trying to build some positivity into the world, and I don't need that to block it.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's get away from the news media. Let's talk about your positivity. What are you trying to build?
Well, I'm trying to build a bridge to everybody's creative soul is what I'm trying to do.
Oh yeah, I like that. And how did you phrase it? I was looking at your marketing materials. You called it a chest, didn't you? You called it what did you call it?
Yeah, I said that we are the bridge to your creative soul. We want you to cross in and expand what you already
soul. I love it. Right.
Here's the thing. Everybody is a creative, no matter what they do. We all have, whether it's using our hands or using our heads or, whatever, we have a creativity in all of us. And I am trying to do something with two portions of that, publishing and podcasting. I want people to share their voices through the printed page as well as the microphone.
Yeah.
And I want them to do it in a positive way.
You're a great interview, by the way. That was a wonderful experience talking with you on your podcast.
Thank you.
I really had a lot of fun, and you are very. Even though I had some word salading there, I listened back to it, and I felt like I did a good job, which made me feel good. Even though on the interview, I felt very nervous that I was talking too much. At the end of the day, you relaxed me and helped me through it, and I felt like that was very good. So that speaks well of your, one branch of creativity. You're good at your job.
And that's my job. I want people to feel comfortable about speaking. And then in the end, that may turn them around and say, you know what, I want to do this on a regular basis. One of the things I'm working on right now is getting some programs out there so people can learn how to be good interviewers and interviewees, because that is the hardest thing for creatives to do, especially when you're an introvert.
I'm really hard interviewing. I'm not good at it.
Because people, and this is something I've learned through forever, and I just realized it starting this year. I have been so much in my head that a lot of times that's where the problem is. Interviewees get in their heads, and that's where all the ums and the pauses come, because they're trying to find the right stuff rather than saying to themselves, I'm just going to speak from my heart, from my soul. And that's where the real magic, the real good stuff comes out, because when you're a creative and you're talking about why you're writing these books, it comes from there. It shouldn't be prepared. I can give 8 to 10 questions, absolutely, but the answers should not be prepared. They should be right off the cuff, coming from where you feel. And you did a fine job in your interview.
My second time doing an interview, I really don't think I clicked with the person doing the interview or something. I just word saladed all over the place.
Right.
It just did not flow very well. I just felt like I wasn't getting, something was happening in that interview that wasn't happening with me and you. I felt like we had a great dialogue going on. But in that second time through, it just wasn't.
Right. The biggest accomplishment that someone can do is, especially if you're an introvert, is learn how to talk to strangers. You can have plenty of your friends on a podcast. That is absolutely not an issue. And I have a couple of people I know where I'm much more comfortable with them. But if you can get to talk to strangers and really ask them questions and not be fearful of their answers, that is a step in the right direction, because fear is probably what caused you to have that word salad, have that kind of monkey chatter, because that person may or may not have been
monkey chatter. I love it.
It might have been in that wrong zone. She or he might have had prepared stuff that she says over and over. For me, it comes down to the answers the next questions a lot of times come from the answers they're providing. I don't like to move from one to an, okay, well, we talked about that, let's talk about this. It's for me, it's kind of logical. If we're going to talk about your book, but we're talking about corned beef and pastrami, we're going to talk about corned beef and pastrami ahead of time before that.
I like these engagements to get a little bit personal, but I definitely do not want to make the person that I'm talking to uncomfortable. I definitely do not want to make the person that I'm talking to angry. I definitely don't want to make this an engagement where they feel confrontational or have to engage in conflict at all. But I want them to tell me how they feel. You know what I mean? I want them to get as intimate as possible, because that gets me into the creative, why they created the thing they created. You know what I mean? And especially you being a journalist and wanting to investigate why people are writing and helping them, create from the soul, push that thing out of them, that splinter of creativity, and providing, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, I want to do something with them that they don't feel that I'm confronting them. That's why I don't do a yes and a no. I think you maybe asked me one yes or no question. You don't want to do that. You want to leave these questions open so that they can expand on them, because when it's a yes and no question, they feel that's where they get interrogated. And then that also turns into, a potential beginning of a confrontation. And this is not something that we as podcasters or interviewers have come up with. These are social connections. This is through sociology.
And I feel like this is forging a relationship. This is not just, providing content for my website or something like that. This is me actually, finding out who Richard Keller is, and then, finding a way to forge a path forward.
Right.
For conversation later on, so we can interact.
If you think about it, you look at social workers. The good social workers, the ones that really produce and make things happen, are the ones who let the clients lead.
Yeah.
They open it up with the questions. They let the clients lead the discussion. That brings another question up to really get to the heart of the matter and how it can be resolved. And it's especially the case, when there's abuse in the family, where there are drugs or anything like that. If the social worker goes that route and gets the answer they want, that certainly helps towards their recovery.
Yeah.
And this thing goes for interviewers and podcasters, and the same thing for authors. You want to present those right, you want to give them that opening to continue on. Like they say in writing, you want that first line to be the best, because once the first line is in, that opens up the door for them to read a lot more. It's a hook. And, I can pull back and say this and tell you a story. You can refer all this back to improv, which I've been doing for about 20 years now.
Oh man, you're doing improv?
Yeah.
I love it. You're still training, or where did you do your first? You were 20 years here? You were doing improv in New York City?
I've been doing 20 years in Washington, D.C., in Delaware, and Philadelphia.
Oh, I was going to say, so that must mean you were doing Caroline's. No, was it Caroline's over here? No, not improvisation. So we're talking about Upright Citizens Brigade and those types of things. So in improvisational acting, I love it.
In order to open up the audience to your sketch, you need to draw their attention with characterization and relationships and objectives and where they are. Because once they have that scene in their head, that's great. That opens things up, and now you're ready. They're hooked. Mm-hmm. And that goes with writing a book, and that goes with podcasting or interviewing. Once you have opened up that door to their creative soul, then they're hooked. Once you've built that bridge to your creative soul, then you're hooked. What a lot of us have issues with, especially sometimes as we're, again, going back to being an introvert, which I am now, I'm a huge extrovert.
I could tell you've got that personality. I'm totally introvert. The whole process of this is painful for me, but I'm doing it. You know what this is, though? This is also what I've done for a living, waiting tables and doing customer service and those painful jobs. Right. This is me doing that, making sure there's no dead air, filling that gap, being on stage, acting, you know what I mean? Trying stand up. That's me doing that, the painful thing, because the painful thing needs to be done regardless, because you need that paycheck. You need to do the painful things sometimes. You need to clean the corners. You need to mop the floors. You need to clean the toilets. This is the painful thing because it needs to be done.
As Ray Kroc said, if you're gonna lean, if you can lean, you can clean.
And this is me cleaning.
So you need to. The problem we have is a lot of times in this creative cycle is that people cannot complete that bridge. Mm-hmm. There's something that blocks them. Could be because they're introverted. Could be the monkey chatter in their heads, because that is our biggest obstacle, is getting across that and all the worry that comes up, and really sinking down into our spirit, our gut, our soul, and saying, yeah, I'm listening. What do you want me to do? That's where we have the hardest problem as creatives, because if we can't get that far, if we can't complete that bridge, then that is always going to be our hurdle.
I was speaking with a friend yesterday. I have her on occasionally. She also does my other podcast, Mirage, Emma Hardcastle, and I was marveling. She claims to be an introvert too, and has anxiety problems and this, that, and the other thing. And she does not do the monkey chatter thing at all. Like, she's very smooth, and the things that she says are very articulate. How do you know when you're monkey chattering? How do you know when you're actually, regurgitating nonsense out of your mouth and not making sense?
That's exactly that.
Is that practice? Or
you said it. It's that ums or ers, or you're continuing to go on, and then you say so and summarize, which I am the guy. I am guilty of that, and that's something I've been working on this year. Actually, is to kind of pull back on that to make sure that what I'm talking about is fulfilling, and not saying, so let me sum up and everything. That's just not the way it works.
So would you find yourself doing something like that? Do you pull back and not summarize and just stop and just, because I want to say, do you understand what I'm saying? Or just stopping and seeing if there's going to be a rebuttal?
I just stop. And it's tough because you being an East Coaster and from New York, you know that our souls and our brains work so fast that we want to get in a word in edgewise.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk, but I have to wait until somebody else talks before I talk. And I have to just get my point across as quick as possible and not summarize, and just, if I do so, and then I just end it and just let something else.
I'm always listening for you to crosstalk me, and I'm waiting for that moment that I can crosstalk you. I didn't even know what this word was, crosstalk. I know there was a show when I was a kid called Crosstalk, but in the interruption, the moment that I can add a point in, I just, this conversation, I guess it's just an East Coast thing. I had a guest on from Yorkshire, and every time I tried to crosstalk, that gentleman would get louder and he would slam his fist on the table. It's like, okay, I guess I am not going to crosstalk this guy at all. I'm just going to wait for him to finish his point and then ask another question.
Right.
It's a, what do you call it? Regional. Whether you can add your 2 cents in the middle of a statement or not.
Yeah, it is very regional, because there are some, especially if you look in England and in Europe, sometimes they talk slower, sometimes they talk faster, depending on what area they're from. And it's either their long pause means they're done, or their long pause means I'm gathering my thoughts for another moment. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to gauge that.
And he would pause, and then I would go, okay. And the next thing he'd say would be very elevated and like, okay. And he was a law enforcement officer too, so he would have that authority to his voice when he came back. It was very interesting. So fiction too, but you don't write fiction anymore.
No, I do. I've just taken a huge break from it. I have a plethora of stories to put out there. I just haven't had the time, or I haven't made the time to edit them and format them and get them ready, because I've been focusing so much on other parts of the business to get it up and running that, unfortunately, the fiction stories kind of fell by the wayside. And that's not good, because I love, cherish, adore writing. Before I learned that I had depression and I was put on regulation medicine, every time I wrote, that serotonin would be released from me and make me feel better as I was being creative. And that's actually something that helps depressed people, is being creative. I love editing and I love the fiction writing. I need to get past it and get back into it.
Do you feel that same type of release when you're helping other people realize their creative
Yes.
Possibilities. That's the right word I'm looking for here.
Yep.
Potential.
Yeah. When I'm editing, right now I'm editing somebody's work I'm publishing, and then also I have to go in and edit and review somebody's podcast that I am airing tomorrow. And when I do that and I listen and I'm interviewing them, I feel good. I feel that feeling of kind of elation when I am helping them because I'm passionate about it.
Mm-hmm. I can tell that too.
Right.
When I looked at your website and when I listened to your podcast, there is a quality to that. There's a measure to that. That's like somebody lining a ruler up to it and slicing perfectly down with an X-Acto knife. When you look at my podcast, I mean, you don't see that. You look at my website, I mean, it's like somebody threw a bunch of fiction at a wall and it just kind of stuck and you sliding down slightly on Elmer's glue or something. But yours is really, really well put together. It's kind of beautiful, honestly. It's really well put together.
Thank you. And with that passion, sometimes those things get put to the side. So like you said, you know, you feel that your website is just, let's throw things against the paper towels against the wall and wet paper towels and see if they stick. But really what you're doing is that is the way you're putting it together because you're passionate and you feel it doesn't matter at this point. It's because I'm getting the stories out there. And I think those things go by the wayside because for months now, I'm like, I got to rebuild the website. And it's never there. That moment is never there to rebuild the website.
I opened up a short story this morning that I had finished months ago and started reworking it. So, I mean, I feel you. I feel your pain on your website. I got to rework this story. And like I said, my Elmer glued together website is barely hanging on. Like, I don't care. I mean, I do care a lot. I care so much, and I just wish I knew more. I just can't glue it together any better at this point. I can't put enough popsicle sticks. Oh.
Right. There's not enough duct tape.
There's not enough popsicle sticks in the world to make it look any better. It's like, damn.
But that's the thing with independent authors. Like, even though I have an imprint like myself or like you, we have to do everything. So we have to prioritize, and we have to see, okay, what's going to get the duct tape first, and then what can we hold on to a little longer before it breaks.
Yeah, I have 30 minutes. Let me go ahead and fix this thing that's been nagging, bugging the crap out of me for like the last couple months.
Right.
Oh, good. That's done. Now I got this headache over here.
What has helped me is a to-do list. So I have one right now that I have, it says must do's, or it was up here. I'll have to pull it up again. I have it on, it has to be must do's. What do I have to do today in order to get things taken care of? And it's not just business stuff. It's also personal stuff. So for example, I'm in Chicago right now, but I need to make sure I have a rental car for my next destination. And I have to finish up some other things. And I have to do that and put done on. And that actually makes me feel better when I see that I've done a couple of things. Even I haven't done all of it, it makes me feel better that I've done something. I've accomplished something. It's those days where I don't feel I've accomplished squat that I feel, oh boy.
Oh yeah. I wish there were days like I haven't done anything. Those days are long gone. Man, I had kids 2.5 years ago, and I swear there's never been a day that's gone by where I've gone, wow, I didn't do anything all day.
Right.
Long gone. I woke up at 2:00 this morning just to get in my rewrite on my novel. Well, a couple words done anyway. I feel like I'm never doing enough.
Yeah.
Well, you have a to-do list. You're accomplishing it on a daily basis. You have a to-do list. You're accomplishing it on a daily basis. If your fantasies were, yours to have and mold and play with, what would be your tomorrow like? I mean, are you actually, you're an editor, you're a podcaster. Do you actually really want to be a fiction writer, or are you satisfied doing what you're doing?
No, I want to continue writing fiction. I really,
What would it take to get your fiction out? I mean, would it take somebody to, hold you down and say, here, I'm taking this and throwing it out into the world? I mean, when is it done? You love it so much, or I mean, because I see the exactitude that you put into your website. I see the perfection that you put into your podcast. I gotta wonder about your fiction. You know what I mean? How much effort would it take for you to say, you know what, that piece is done. Here you go, world, enjoy.
Well, you're enlarging my ego today, so thank you.
I know people who just take so much time. I was on Twitter not too long ago, and this person just said, here, world, here's a tweet, 140 characters. And she said she has been working on a sentence for 54 days or something. And she deleted a "the" and an "a," and then she deleted it or something along those lines. I'm like, my God, how much time do people spend on sentences? Just publish the damn thing, right?
Right. Here's the thing. I have been very blessed with a gift, not only of being a creative, but being a fast creative. And I think part of that is just practice, because I've done it so much. I can put out a 400, 500 word blog post in 10 minutes. Or 15 minutes. I can put those stories together. But when you're putting a novel together, there's a lot more dedication to it, because you really are in a trance at that point. Not the editing side, but the writing side. You're relying on your creative soul to get those words out, for the soul to go up your spinal cord to your brainstem and signal it to move your hands on the typewriter or the pad and get it going.
Yeah, totally. I get that.
And that needs actual time made to do it. Now, what I'm trying to do is start getting up a little earlier each day so that I can make that happen. And putting my phone very far away.
Oh, no. So that's the problem, is you like sleep.
Well, I do and I don't. I do like to sleep, because if I don't, then I have to take naps. And I'm good at naps, but I'm really good at naps because I can knock out a 2-hour nap at any point. The problem is
now I understand your question about being in the military and self-discipline.
Right. Because if I take a 2-hour nap, that's it. I'm done for the day. I
got you. My wife's the same way. We're on the weekends. She's like, I can't nap. I said, why not? The rest of my day is complete trash. She can't function. It's like I set my alarm for 2:00 and it goes off. And you know what I do? I get nudged by her. She nudges me. I have the most softest music playing because she nudges me. And I am so scared of my wife. I am so scared of her. She nudges me. If it goes, I can't hit snooze either. She'll make more than one noise. And if she makes more than one noise, she'll do more than nudge me. She'll like grunt or something. I jump out of bed. So, I mean, what you have to do is just have a scary wife and you'll be...
I sleep okay, so I can move through the day mostly. Sometimes I might take a 20-minute nap, which is much better than a 2-hour nap.
What time do you start your day?
Well, lately I've been starting it. Well, I'm in Chicago right now, so if we're calling it Colorado time, around 5:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning.
It's pretty early.
That's pretty early for me. And when I took the kids to school, I was up that time, if not earlier anyway. So I figure it's best for me to do that because I can get much more done in that period of time than if I leave it until the nighttime. If I leave it until the nighttime, that's it. I can't really do anything. I'm a morning, I'm a morning, afternoon, early evening guy. At some point in time,
at night. I really can't. I can force myself. If I brew some coffee, I can do some editing. I might be able to do a story if I'm like, ugh. But it's hard for me.
It's a push. It's a push, and it doesn't work. So, as an example, I'm going to finish up with you. I'm going to head down into, I'm in Chicago right now. I'm going to head downtown and I'm going to meet a friend. We're going to have lunch. I'll come back and I will finish up my day. I will work on it, whatever I can, until about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And then when my eyeballs fall out, I will put them back in and I'll call it an evening. And that's about as far as I can go. But then I put in 14 hours of time. And that's more than adequate. I mean, people can come to you. My clients say, oh, I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for that. I can say, I'm a human being. I have to do this and I have to do that. And when the book, you're going to get it as quick as I can. And you talked about perfection. It's not I want to go back. It's not a perfection thing, but look, I run a business and I want to make sure that my stuff is not, there aren't massive mistakes or anything like that. And the same thing go for editing. Right now, I'm
doing a business based on perfection. Honestly, if you don't look 100% perfection related, people are going to say, no, I'm not letting you edit my novel. Right. Or my story or this or that, whatever you're asking for people to give you money for. I mean, you have to look good.
And I'm a big structural guy. I'm a big structural editing fan. So right now I'm doing the structural editing on this. And I enjoy doing that. I enjoy, okay, let me add a comma here, delete this, add this. Because if that isn't there, people are not going to like the story. Mm-hmm. They're going to just be like me and say, oh, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. And they're going to stop reading the book. I noticed I was reading Anthony Bourdain's, one of his books. And I was like, oh, there's a mistake there. And there's a comma missing there. And, it kind of distracts you from what's going on. And I don't want people to do that. I wanted people to continue to read and not be at the point where I like, wait, let me go back up and read that again. Wait, let me go up and read that again. So they get confused.
Yeah. My wife's the same way. I unfortunately don't see that stuff, which is horrible for a writer. I just get engrossed in the entertainment value of whatever piece I'm reading, including my own stuff. I'm grammatically blind. It's not good.
Nope, but that's why you have editors.
I guess. I have a wife and she has friends too, unfortunately. Right now, that's the situation anyway. What do you charge for your services?
Well, it depends on what you do. If you are just going to come to me and do editing and that's it, then we're looking at some standard pays around the $60 an hour mark. It also depends on whether you're going to want content or you're going to want story editing, meaning you're going to look at the characters and the relationships and the objectives and the whereabouts and the peaks and the valleys. If you are doing podcasting, it depends. Right now, if you have your own podcast and you are just wanting me to air it and you do all the editing, I don't have to do too much. Well, you're going to pay $75 a month to be on my network because I do the marketing for it and I do the and I make sure it goes to all of the networks. If you want me to record it, it's going to be higher, of course, to take care of that. And if you want to publish a book with us, well, it's best if you go to our website at woodenpantspub.com and contact me at woodenpantspub@gmail.com. And then I can tell you where we're going to go, because we're a one-stop shop. We're not a vanity press. We don't just put a cover on it and format it and give you 500 copies. We do formatting, we do cover design, we do edits, we distribute, we do as much marketing as we possibly can. We ask for your help with that. And you keep all the royalties and you keep all the copyright. So there's a lot to that I would be interested in talking to people with about.
What is a vanity press? What's a vanity press?
A vanity press is you send your stuff there and you pay for it. So you'll pay $100 to a couple of $1,000 for them to print your book. They will not edit it. They will not format it. They'll slap on a cover on it, and then they'll ship several hundred books to you for you to store in your garage to sell them on your own. They do not do marketing or distribution or anything like that. We're not the Wooden Pants Media and Wooden Pants Publishing is not what we do is not uncommon. We ask for an upfront price because we do have to pay our editors. We do have to pay our cover designers. We do have to pay for the ISBNs and distribution. And by paying up front in installment payments, you get to cross that bridge into your creative soul and also see the benefits from it. We have a person who just released an ebook about straight talk tools for the desperate husband, about articles and how they can save their marriages. He sold over 100 books in 30 days, if not more. And he is reaping the benefits of the investment that he made. So this is something that we do, and I'm passionate about as well. If I enjoy the story, I am going to be the one who accepts it. I am looking for authors who are also passionate, who are willing to work with our team to get the best book possible.
In my opinion, that's the key, isn't it? It's how hard you work no matter what. I mean, you have to be prepared to bleed your soul out into the world regardless, in regards to your writing and in regards to the marketing, if you plan on being successful. And I wanted to talk to you about marketing. What do you think the role of marketing is going to play in going forward? How do you get your name out there? How do you get readers? How do you get an audience? Not just, how do you get an audience?
There are a couple of things. Word of mouth is still very important these days, be it through social media or for somebody picking up the book. We've been talking amongst our writing group, and one of the things to do is if you have a book, leave it somewhere. If that person picks it up, they may drop it off somewhere else. That leads to word of mouth and good publicity. The other thing is to produce. If you are a quality writer and you produce quality work over and over again, you're going to get the audience. The thing of one and done, it may not work anymore. We're moving into a new world where the bestseller is not really the bestseller anymore. The bestseller is the
most seller,
the good seller. It's the good seller, the good solid book, as opposed to the Harry Potters or the Martian or 50 Shades of Grey, which frankly was atrocious.
God, man, you want to talk about the Martian, though? That man wrote a short story that set him on the road to success, and then he wrote the Martian with his followers, basically. Oh, you need to edit this. Oh, you need to add that. You should make this, blah, blah, blah. Then he wrote the Martian, and he's popular.
Right.
He sat back with a shy smile writing this Moon book, and I can't wait for it to be published. I hope it's as good, but I don't think he had the following that he had writing the Martian.
No, and that's the thing. You need that fan base ahead of time, not just your family, not just your close friends. You want to get out there. If it's through podcasts, if it's through blogging, if it's through videos, if it's through so many other factors, you have the ability in this century to market yourself without leaving your house. You really do.
Yeah.
You could do it through so many different ways. It's just keeping that momentum going through that. So you're on a podcast, and that's great. But if you're not on a podcast for another 8 months, you're not going to have that momentum. You have to constantly be out there in order for people to recognize you, because everybody's out there doing the same thing. So the better you are at it, the more professional, the more that you're passionate about it, the more that people are going to be drawn to you than away from you.
And also imagine the more human you are too. I mean, maybe having Elmer glued popsicle sticks isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Thank you. That's the whole point of having you on this podcast.
All done.
All done. We're finished. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming. I'm just joking, man. it is very intimidating though, because there are a lot of people out there trying to make this type of dream come true. This type of, you call it there's the creative soul pulling it out into the world, putting it out into the world. It's intimidating because I talk to so many. I mean, like I said, did I tell you you're number 49? You're the 49th person that I've had on my podcast. You've spoken to 300 people who spent a good portion of their daily lives trying to create something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there trying to do this in a world in which we just came out 10 years ago of an economic situation where, people lost their houses, who lost their shirts. I mean, nothing is guaranteed anymore. People lose their jobs all the time. There's nothing.
And that's the thing. I was walking through the Art Institute of Chicago, going through some of the furniture of the early history of our life, and one of those phases was the arts and crafts phase in the late 1800s, early 1900s, connected to the prairie phase, which Frank Lloyd Wright was one of the main people of. And it was people going and building their stuff. They were tired of machines. They wanted to build their own works, their own furniture. They wanted to do it right. And that's where we are right now. The recession really turned the industry, the job market, on its side. And that's why we are now, we deal with side hustles.
That's very interesting. I want my own job. I want my own career. I want my own thing. I'm tired of having a job. That's basically why I'm doing this. It's basically why I'm hustling. It's basically why I'm looking at a world in which I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and, try to look for an avenue, pulling the vines away, trying to clear the roughage, looking for a way to feed my family and pay a mortgage that doesn't rely on me putting applications out there and being some kind of, training monkey that gets fired. So other kind of training monkey fills my spot in 2 or 3 months.
Look at Little House on the Prairie. What did Pa Ingalls do? He toiled, he worked. He eventually started a lumber mill in his town, but he worked his butt off constantly. He wasn't a corporate guy until much later. He did what he had to do.
From town to town, solving people's problems, and was an angel. So I don't.
Right. That too. Prior to him being a comic.
That was a little bit before my time. So.
But even if you read Laura Ingalls' books, you can tell how hard their life was and what her father did in order to make it happen. We're not a world of corporations.
No.
Until
we really don't.
1880. Right.
We don't want to sit there and have something wash over us. We're tired of it. Our parents didn't have it. They tried to do it to us, and we cut the cord. We don't want commercials. Our generation, your generation included. Are you MTV generation? You are, right?
Yeah, I'm MTV generation. Yep.
So I mean, you're included in this. My generation, I guess you can call me millennial, or right at the cusp. Generation X, Y, millennial, whatever's coming next. I mean, we're all going to do something different. We want our own entertainment.
Right.
We're creating it.
Yep. It's something that we have to. We're going to be. The world is going to change. It's changing now. It's changing now, and we're going to see those changes with the next generation, which will be our children.
HBO says, no, you can't have all of the Game of Thrones at the same time. And somebody says, no, but we do want it. We're not going to take your $150,000. We're just going to take it. We're going to take all of Game of Thrones and we're going to put it out in the world so people can watch it. It's not money based. It's just nobody wants anything for this.
Right.
It's just all available to take. That's the worst part about this, is that there is no money. For content, for entertainment. Nobody is actually making any money. If you put something out there in the world that becomes popular, people are going to share it. They're not going to give you any money for it. So that's the main problem that we're looking at.
And that's why you have to have a side hustle. And it may not be a real job. It may be something else that brings in the money for you.
Which is what, though? That's what
that's it.
That's what my mind is kind of racking itself against. Is it posters? Is it the podcast? It's not advertising, because man, when I put something on YouTube, I slam that advertisement at the very back of my podcast so that it doesn't interfere with anybody's ability to listen to this interruption free.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I don't want people to say, oh, he's just doing this for the money. No, you know, listen to it. If you happen to get to the end and you want to listen to the advertisement, great, thank you. But that's not why I'm really doing this.
Right.
You want to throw some dollars at the Patreon? Perfect. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
You want to buy my novel on Amazon? Leave a review. Tell me how you did. I'd love to know what you thought. That'd be wonderful. There's some short fiction on there too that I didn't remember I wrote. I don't know. Donations, right? Scott Johnson makes like $10,000 a month through donations on Patreon.
Yeah, that's where you have to go.
So what's next for you? What are you going to do?
Well, what am I going to do? There's so much going on right now. I'm in a digital nomad world. I'm traveling. I'm in Chicago right now. I'm heading to Santa Fe, where I'll be interviewing more authors and entrepreneurs, trying to put more advertising on the podcast, trying to do more work for fiction and nonfiction, and basically trying to push ahead, trying to make sure things are going to work out, because I am committed to this. I am not a corporate guy. I am not a cubicle guy, even though my head sometimes says it. I am not that type of person, and I'm fine with that.
What if corporate America came knocking?
No, I wouldn't. I can't.
Their coffers are big. I asked a couple questions to lead us out, and I got to say thank you so much. You were a great conversation, as I knew you were going to be.
Thank you.
What are you reading?
Well, I just finished Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain, which was very interesting.
That's fantastic. I love that. That was a really good book.
All I can say is there's a chapter in there you cannot read while you're eating, because it'll just throw you off. And I just opened a science fiction book, and I cannot remember the title, and I haven't read a science fiction title in so long. It'll be interesting. I also have one I want to start reading on an introduction to Buddhism.
Oh, interesting.
Try to breakdown at that. So I am trying to read a lot more than I have. It's good that the train ride between where I am and downtown Chicago is a half an hour or so, because I do get a little reading in during that time.
I never really recommend books, but I'll recommend two to you, because Kitchen Confidential is really great. And then right after I finished reading it, I read the book Heat. I think Bill, have you read it? Bill Buford?
No.
Buford. It's a book written by a journalist who went into who's Mario Batali's kitchen, and wrote about his life, basically, his culinary stylings for like a year. Oh, it's so good. Just basically a book on cooking. And then Seven Eves. It's basically The Martian on crack. It's like the best technical, high science fiction book you could possibly read. Boom, boom. Best books ever. Yeah. And I stay away from the religious books. I just like to think my own religion. What do you recommend people doing it, creating? What's your go-to motivational phrase?
Oh boy, good question.
What do you say to people who ask you for advice?
Make the commitment.
Yeah, man.
Dive into your soul. Listen to your soul. Your soul is not going to
It's gonna lie to you, is it?
It's not going to lie to you. It's going to tell you the truth. It's your head that is going to tell you the 5 things that you can't do because of it. Don't listen to it. Just keep pushing ahead. In this new venture of mine as a digital nomad, as the wandering creative, it's like, okay, am I going to have enough money to cover these things? And my brain's like, oh no, because of this, and this. Like, no, I can't do it. I'm just not going to listen to it. There's nothing wrong with trying. That's the thing. You got to try.
Yeah, definitely. And do the Chicago style pizza. Just stay away from Chicago style hot dogs. There's no point to that. I don't know why anybody would want to put themselves through that horribleness. Hey, I really, really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for sitting through this hour with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it.
All right, man. You have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that was Richard Keller. Next up on Origin, I have Jonathan French. If nothing goes wrong, that'll be a great conversation. He is a speculative author. I also have a couple episodes of Mirage, speculating on speculative fiction. Emma Hardcastle is going to be on to talk about Mitch Albom. I said his name correctly. Hopefully I will continue doing so. And Jason Abbott's going to return, and we're going to do an episode where we geek out about burrows. Bunches of stuff coming up. Hoodoo Jones is going to be here to talk about the occult. And my friend J.E. Perazzi is going to talk about Christianity in science fiction and speculative writing as well on Mirage. Bob Beers is going to be here. There's a bunch on the schedule coming up. Guys, I really appreciate you listening. Check me out on Twitter at BRYAIELLO. That's going to be your best bet to follow me and all of my doings. Find out updates on the podcast. Find when I update my website with fiction, which I'm definitely trying to do more often. Trying to do more image prompts. Trying to get stuff done. Also, brianyellow.com is my website. If you want to look at back episodes of Mirage or Origin, that's where to find them. And what's going on with the military collection? Who knows? It's happening. We'll get it done. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.